This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Pursue Fitness. I'm joined here today by Adam Smith. We're at the Dillian Whyte versus Whyte-Rivas weigh-in here in London. How you doing, Adam? Been a while?
I'm good. How are you? Very good. Yeah, it's been too long since I've seen you last. Where have you been?
Post Las Vegas for Fury, I tried to get a little bit of downtime, just taking on two very capable colleagues who have been coming to do the shows, and they've been getting your time instead of me.
Good. I met them as well, but we like having the main man back, and I enjoyed the Fury entertaining show, and yeah, we've had a couple of Italy shows and some bits and pieces, and now big one Saturday night.
You mentioned the Italy show. I actually watched the Matchroom Italia show last week. Marcus Morrison, sensational stoppage win over Emmanuel Blandamora. Yeah. Just how big a win was that for Marcus Morrison, given what he's been through in his career?
I thought it was a huge win for him. You know, I thought he was down at the time of the stoppage. He had a good start. Blandamora came back in, and I thought that Morrison just wasn't going to have enough down the stretch. But you know what? He's always had power, and I'm pleased for Marcus. He's a dedicated guy. He's obviously a guy that was once a huge prospect for everybody, and it hasn't quite worked out that way. And sometimes fighters can slip, and you wonder whether they'll ever get that sort of confidence back in themselves. So it was a big win for him. Saw the pictures of him coming back to Manchester and the family all waiting for him, and yeah, a real refreshing story, and let's see how he can build on that. But yeah, definitely his career best win, and to do it in Italy, all the sweeter.
Saw European light heavyweight title at stake on that card as well. Sergey picked up the vacant title. Spoke to Eddie Hearn about a potential opportunity for Joshua Buatsi to challenge for the European light heavyweight title. What do you make of that fight for Josh?
Yeah, I think that's a good step up for him. I mean, I'd like to see him fight, you know, the likes of Callum Johnson and Jose Burton, the European title, you know, any one of those. I think, you know, I want to see Joshua Buatsi back in the ring. I was hoping to see him on July the 6th, but they felt they needed longer, and obviously we saw him in New York have a fairly comfortable night. So I want to get some momentum with Josh, but I'm sure he'll be back maybe the end of August or early September. And yeah, I'd like to see him in a big step up and a big test, because I think he's good enough.
I mentioned being in Las Vegas for the Fury fight. On that undercard, Sullivan Barrera versus Jesse Hart. I know Sullivan Barrera was somebody that Paul Reddy and various other people had spoken about potentially matching Josh with. I think it's probably fair to say his best days are behind him. Is that still a fight that would interest you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good name for him. You know, I don't think you should, you know, you can't push him too hard. You know, Josh has done everything right so far, and you know, whether he's going to sort of miss out on the sort of Burton, Callum Johnson thing and go a slightly different route, I don't know. I mean, they're all so many good fights for him. You know, culminating in the likes of Yarde and obviously, you know, the world champions. But I think Sullivan Barrera is an interesting fight. You know, I think as long as he's progressing and getting big names and getting, you know, more and more tests as he goes through, I think that's the most important thing. But as I said, I'd like to see him fight in Britain at 10 o'clock at night. I think he needs to build up a following, a real fan base here. And as long as he's step by step in the right direction, that's good for me.
Well, we're kind of hovering around the subject. You mentioned Anthony Yarde there. We recently got news of his confirmation to face Sergey Kovalev for the WBO light heavyweight title. What do you make of that fight?
A very interesting fight, fascinating fight. I like Anthony Yarde a lot. He's a good guy. He's a great fighter. Kovalev might be there for the taking, or he might have a little too much experience even at this stage of his career. I think it's a great fight, and I look forward to it.
One thing that I've been keen to talk about with regards to that fight is the 6-week window beforehand for VADA testing, which is a very, very short window of testing. Now, I've spoken to you at length in the past about drugs in boxing, and we obviously had the huge Jerome Miller scandal. Does a 6-week VADA testing window sit right for you as a fan?
I'd like to see it longer, but you know, sometimes these things that as I've always said, we're not governing bodies. You know, we're not VADA, we're not the British board, we're not administrators of the sport, we're broadcasters. But yeah, you know, you and I agree on our stance, and that is that there should be no place for drugs in this sport. It's a dangerous sport. It's maybe the most dangerous sport, and there's no place for it. So the more thorough the testing, the better for me.
Final one on the light heavyweights. We've also seen confirmation of Alexander Vosdik versus Artur Beterbiev, WBC and IBF light heavyweight unification bout. I know you're an avid boxing fan. That's a great fight.
I love that fight. I really love it. Listen, the light heavyweight division is terrific. It's really bubbling, and you know, if they can make matches like that, you know, everyone's going to benefit. You know, the 12 Stone 7 Brigade, both domestically and globally, is absolutely flying. It's been a division that's been a little bit sort of overlooked over the years. You know, when I sort of started out in the early days of Sky Sports, it was a really strong division. Then we brought the likes of Clinton Woods, Crawford Ashley, and Ulay Clements and those sort of names in it. And there was a real great sort of domestic affair, obviously Mark Prince and guys like that. And then it sort of went into a slightly decaying sort of time for the light heavyweights, but it's back, and arguably it's one of the top 2 or 3 divisions in world boxing, and it's fantastic to see because they've got a lot of power at that weight, and they've still got the speed and the boxing technical skills as well. It's a great weight, and I love it, and I love the fact it's back.
Let's talk about this card. Dillian Whyte versus Oscar Rivas. Intense face-off there between the pair of them. Neither man taking a step back. That seems to be how the fight's going to go tomorrow night at the O2.
It's an intense fight. 52 fights between them as pros. 51 wins. 26, I think, by knockout. Was it 36? No, it's 36. 18 each. They're great statistics. Oscar Rivas is unbeaten. He was a terrific amateur. I've been saying all week that we all looked past Andy Ruiz's amateur experience and the fact that he'd been fighting since he was a kid. Oscar Rivas, no different. He beat Ruiz, he beat Kubrat Pulev in the amateurs. He's done nothing wrong as a pro. He's lost a bit of momentum at times, and maybe he hasn't had the tests, or certainly hasn't had the names that Dillian Whyte's faced, which is why he's an underdog here and obviously on Whyte's home soil. But it's a terrific tussle. In many ways, it's the most competitive heavyweight matchup of the year so far, and there's plenty at stake, so that's why there was a bit of needle at the head-to-head. It's been, fairly genteel in the build-up, but it's business time now, and both of them know how important a fight it is for them. The interim title at stake. Dillian's been waiting forever for that world title shot. For whatever reason, he didn't fight Anthony Joshua in April, and every fight is vital to him. But what I like is the fact that they want to take risks. They want to fight each other, which is great, and I think there's a sprinkling of that all the way down the card, Rob, and I love this night, and I think it's going to be as good, if not better, a night than this time last year, which was absolutely fantastic when Whyte fought Parker and Chisora fought Takam. So if it can be as good or even better, the fans and all of us are in for a treat.
It is an excellent card. We'll come on to the card in a minute. Just staying with Dillian Whyte, in the wake of Anthony Joshua's loss to Andy Ruiz, does that raise Dillian Whyte's value to Sky Sports, given the fact that you've had one pay-per-view attraction defeated, as well as defeated overseas? You've got Dillian Whyte willing to fight over in the UK. Is he now more important to Sky Sports?
I wouldn't say Anthony Joshua is less important because of one defeat. Anthony Joshua is part of our makeup, our history, really, and we've been with him from the start. So we're not going to pass on a compelling and unbelievable rematch, which we hope to have in the UK, and we hope will break all sorts of records. I think that's an incredible sort of end to the year, particularly if it lands in Cardiff as we hope. But yeah, of course, it's always important to have other Sky Sports box office fighters and fights. I think the fact that Dillian Whyte has almost become a box office fighter is because of the opponent in the other corner. You look at the likes of Joseph Parker and Derek Chisora and now Oscar Rivas. These are live fights, and what Dillian's really impressed on us is the fact that he wants cards which are stacked. He wants proper fights on his cards, so it's not just his fight, and of course he'll be focused on what happens at sort of 10:30 tomorrow night to him, but he's got the likes of his guys like Richard Riakporhe on the card in a great fight with Chris Billum-Smith. And then you've got, Chisora and Spilker and Allen and Price and, other great fights, Duffield and Aziz. And I think, look, it's a great card, and I think Dillian is keen on making that happen. So, yeah, he's a box office fighter because of what he brings to the table and the party, and we love that.
Talking about the card, it is stacked with 50-50 fights throughout. It still has attracted some criticism from sections of boxing fans. What do you make of that?
You can't please everybody, you never will. It's all subjective. I think it's a fantastic card. Let's compare. I really enjoyed Frank Warren's show at the O2 last week. Joe Joyce got the win. He wasn't overly impressive, but he got the win. He's a great guy, and he's a great part of the heavyweight division. I was really impressed with Daniel Dubois. I thought he was terrific. I thought it was his best performance against an unbeaten guy, Nathan Gorman, and someone who's really up for it. So really impressed with Frank's show last week, and I'm really impressed with what Eddie's brought here. I think it's a deeper show. I think it's stacked. I think it's a Sky Sports box office event, and I'm pleased with it. So yeah, there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be people that are not happy. Probably want to see Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder on the card as well. But top to bottom, it's a great show, and I think people will get value for money from 6 o'clock onwards, right through the night. And I, for one, am going to love it. And I know a lot of people are asking me for tickets, and is there any way we can get in? So I think there's a lot of love for this show out there as well.
Now, I know Eddie's spoken in the past about wanting to raise the standard of Saturday night fight nights. I know that's something that you've spoken about in the past as well. What's the plan in place to do that? Is it very much Eddie goes off and does it, and you kind of have to wait and see, or do you have your input on the situation as well?
Massive input. Frank and Eddie and I speak regularly. I mean, Eddie and I speak every day, and Frank, Eddie and I had a meeting before the workouts on Wednesday, and look, we're pretty happy that we're going to have a phenomenal schedule for the next 3 or 4 months. You know my thoughts on 1 or 2 of the fight cards. Ted Cheeseman at the beginning of the year, which actually turns out to be decent in reality. July 6th I wasn't happy about. July 6th went away. Also, we didn't take the Amir Khan fight for various reasons. So we can stand up. But Eddie's my partner. Eddie's my. We've been through a lot together. The two of us, his team and our team, have really helped boxing come back to where it is, with obviously the help of many others, including, most importantly, the fighters like Anthony Joshua and the others that have come, sort of on the coattails of AJ. And we've Carl Froch and George Groves. There's been amazing moments throughout the sort of 6-7 years that we've been working really closely together. So we're a partnership, Eddie and I, and he's done phenomenal things, and he will continue to do phenomenal things. Occasionally, when I'm not happy with the show, I'll tell him. But I was very happy with what happened at the Copper Box. I thought it was a great night. Liverpool was a great night. There's been some terrific stuff from the States, and I think there'll be some terrific stuff both from the UK and the States in the next 4 or 5 months. We'll make sure that we agree stuff together. And I think the winners are going to be fight fans, because I'm going to make sure that there's going to be terrific shows coming to the UK, and Eddie's going to deliver them. I have no doubt about that.
Let's speak about the Anthony Joshua Andy Ruiz rematch. I spoke to Eddie yesterday, and Eddie told me that the 29th was in play in November, which is actually a Friday, which meant, in his opinion, that the actual fight itself could be at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Would that be a kind of a happy compromise for you, as somebody who wants the fight to be 10 o'clock in the UK?
I want it at 10 o'clock in the UK, Rob. Listen, if it's in America, it's in America. We dealt with it last time, we'll deal with it again. There's reasons to go back to America, the scene of the crime, the place where he wants to right the wrong, all of that stuff. And obviously DAZN have a huge amount of money and a huge amount of input too, with what they've done in the last year. But Anthony Joshua is a Sky Sports box office fighter, and in my belief is that he should fight in the UK at the back end of the year. I believe he should fight in Cardiff. I believe he should fight at 10, 11 o'clock at night. If, listen, maybe there's a little movement in that way, the other way. I mean, if it's going to be 1 o'clock in the US, it's better than 3, 4 in the morning. And the Americans might say to me, look, we want it at 11:30, 12 and not 10:30 in the UK. And I suppose, listen, we're all going to sit down and we're all going to have a conversation about it. But I am adamant and very clear that I want this fight in the UK. I've told AJ that, I've told Freddie that, I've told Andy Bell that, I've told Eddie that. I'm bored of talking now, really. It's I believe they want it in the UK. I believe it gives them the best possible chance of exacting revenge, every psychological edge. But I also think it's important for Andy Ruiz to come over and prove that he can do it, in England as well, or in Wales, or wherever the fight ends up. I know Tottenham was looked at Wembley, but it looks like it'll have to have a roof that time of year. So I'm sure Cardiff is the place it'll end up if it happens in the UK. If it happens in New York or anywhere else, then we'll listen. It's a massive rematch wherever it happens. But I'd love to have it in the UK. And Andy Ruiz told me he wants to come and commentate in the UK. So I'm sure he wants to come and fight here too. So let's see what happens in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks. But I've put my flag in the sand. I know where I want it. And I think British fight fans do as well.
Now, as I understand it, Anthony Joshua will be bringing somebody into his training team for this rematch. Just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Rob's been his long-time trainer, and I'm sure he'll stick with Rob McCracken, not just out of loyalty, because he's the best guy for the job. He's tactically astute. He knows AJ better than everybody. And look, he got it wrong first time around. I don't believe the conspiracy theories. I don't buy into it, and I don't think Team Joshua do. He was complacent. He overlooked him. He was looking towards Deontay Wilder, and he got beaten. End of the story. He lost the fight. he's got to prove he can go back and do it differently. And you know, I'm sure Rob is the guy to do that. If he needs help, you know, there's people out there. I know there's people out there that have been in similar situations, like Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko, Jonathan Banks, part of that stable. Emmanuel Stewart, of course, no longer with us, but they've got great experience of sort of heavyweights who've had to come back from shock defeats and had to rebuild, and they often have more time to do it. You know, AJ's going straight into a rematch, so he hasn't got that much time. But if he uses his physical advantages, you know, he's no question he can exact revenge. You know, he will be favourite for the rematch because people will think that if he uses his physical advantages, his jab and his getting hold of the centre ring, then he will be favourite going into it. But rematches often go the same way, so they're going to have to get this right. If Rob needs help, if AJ needs help, then they'll make that decision. You know, that's out of my hands. But if you're asking me, he's got to do everything he can to make sure that he boxes to his attributes and his strengths, because it's a must-win fight for AJ, in my opinion.
Now, a fight that is going to be happening in the UK, Lomachenko versus Luke Campbell at the O2 on August the 31st. We are waiting for an official announcement of that tomorrow, but the fight's happening. How excited are you to welcome arguably the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world to the UK?
We'll wait for an official announcement, as always, Rob. If and when that happens, if Lomachenko is to come to the UK on August the 31st, I think it's going to be an incredible moment for British boxing. Personally, I think he's the greatest fighter to lace them up since Floyd Mayweather. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a genius in the ring. I think his movement, his fluidity, his balance, his technique. I've been lucky enough to commentate on him up close and personal. I think he's a phenomenon. He was a phenomenon as an amateur, and I think he's unbelievable as a pro. To fight for a world title in his second fight, and you know, that's the one slight defeat on his record. It doesn't mean anything. He's been absolutely brilliant. You know, Anthony Crollo will tell you how good he is, and Luke Campbell's the guy that's got to fight him and try and find a way. And I think Luke is a brilliant fighter in himself, and they're both 2 Olympic gold medalists, and you know, the same games, and they know each other. They've looked at each other and studied each other well, and you know, don't write Luke off totally. You know, he'll certainly be in this fight. He'll give Lomachenko plenty to think about. Can he win it? He could win it. Will he win it? I don't know. You know, to beat Lomachenko is going to be a massive ask. So I think it's a case of, you know, it's a really good matchup. It's also a chance for us to welcome, you know, a great fighter to our shores. And I hope people really, you know, take to him. I know the trade know how good Lomachenko do. I know the casuals are beginning to, but I want it to go deep into the casuals, deep into the football fans, to realise that it's going to be very, very special having someone like Lomachenko here. Is he as good as Floyd Mayweather? No, he hasn't proved that yet at all. Will he be? Maybe. But certainly, since Floyd Mayweather, I think he is the best. And you know, you're looking back to Mayweather, then back to Sugar Ray Leonard. These guys only come in once in a generation, and I think Lomachenko is absolute class, and I can't wait to see him.
Okay, well, just before we go, as I mentioned at various stages of this interview, it is a very, very stacked card tomorrow night, full of 50-50 fights. Which fight are you most looking forward to, Adam?
Wow, a lot of them for different reasons. I think Riakporhe and William Smith maybe is the pick of the fights in a sort of genuine 50-50 way, because you've got to slightly favour Dillian over Oscar Rivas because of that experience and the momentum. I don't know, I'm looking forward to all of them. I can't wait for Price Allen because, you know, I like both of them so much. You know, David Price has been here and around us for so long, and he still possesses that power and the incredible boxing ability for 2-3 rounds, but mentally has he got it right? He seems to be in a really good place. David Allen, how far can he go this story? Can it run? You know, you'd never give him a chance against David Price 2 or 3 years back, but now you do. And is it Price early? Is it Allen late? That's brilliant. Derek Chisora, how long will he go on for? Is the southpaw a problem? Spilker, I saw him for 6 rounds give Deontay Wilder nightmares. Is he the same fighter? It really is good, you know, Duffield and Aziz, you know, there's some terrific fights. I love Lawrence Okoli, so I never know what you're going to get with Lawrence, and he's an enigma, but he's got that personality and the awkwardness to possibly go all the way and really shock us. And, you know, it reminds me a little bit of Johnny at certain stages of his career, and maybe not the best on the eye, and then suddenly he puts in this great performance. So you never know what you're going to get with Lawrence, and you know, you add Dalton Smith and others to it. I just think it's a great card from top to bottom. So I think the advice is, you know, get there early or tune into Facebook and then Sky Sports box office early and enjoy the whole night. It's a stacked night, and I hope that people at 11, 12 o'clock go home, not just talking about Dillian and Rivas, but talking about what was their favourite moment. Because I think there's going to be knockouts, I think it's going to be an upset or two, and I think it's going to be a riveting night. And it was a summer sizzler this time last year, Rob, you know, with the likes of Takam and Chisora and Parker and Whyte, and we all enjoyed that night. I think, and I don't agree with the people that are slagging this one off. You know, there are reasons to slag some shows off. I don't think there's reasons to slag this one. I think it's a great show, and let's hope it lives up to expectations.
Okay, well said. Well, thanks very much, Adam. Nice to see you finally. Look forward to seeing tomorrow night Dillian Whyte versus Oscar Rivas live at the O2.
Cool. Nice to see you, and see you tomorrow.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks, mate.